What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sixers Digest YouTube channel. My name is Barnard as usual, and there's been so much nonsense around the Sixers universe this summer, whether it be Joel Embiid commenting that he wants to win a championship, whether it's in Philadelphia or somewhere else, James Harden calling Daryl Morey a liar in front of as many people that will listen, or just the constant rumors and reports of James Harden, the fighting with Daryl Morey, all the nonsense that has occurred. I'm excited today to dive into a little bright spot within the organization, and that is Jaden Springer. Now, before I fully dive into it, I do want to remind you guys to make sure that you are subscribing to the channel, dropping a like on each video, dropping a comment. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear from you guys, and make sure to ring that bell so you're not missing out on any of the awesome content that me and Casey are putting forth on here. I'm excited to keep staying up to touch with the Sixers organization, and the number one thing that is motivating me right now is these highlights from Jaden Springer. So Jaden Springer is still a bit of a question mark within the Sixers organization that we have not been able to really see what he can do. He's been a guy, we know the story of Doc Rivers, who was super unwilling to give young players a chance and unwilling to let them play through their growing pains in a way that likely is best for their development. Springer probably got the short end of the stick more so than anyone in that. He did have some really positive moments with in the G League with the Delaware Bluecoats. I got a chance to pop down there and watch them a couple games, and I also want to add that there was a night and day difference between year one to year two for Jaden Springer at the Bluecoats. That there is much more offensive game to his abilities, that he's added layers in that department. I'm seeing him take guys off the dribble now. There's a little bit of playmaking that I didn't see in the past and definitely did not see in his singular year at Tennessee. And it looks like he's continuing on that pathway to progression. He most recently showcased this in the Rico Hines showcase that is going down in Los Angeles right now. Rico Hines, of course, is an assistant coach from the Sixers. He followed Nick Nurse from Toronto. He's been a Toronto Raptors assistant coach, and he's run some of the more famous pickup games when it comes to NBA guys in the offseason. James Harden participated in it last year as well as Montrezl Harrell, B-Ball Paul. There's a number of guys that participated. It's a pretty high-ticket event for NBA guys when it comes to offseason workouts, and you see a number of Sixers getting involved in this. Even in the background of this video, Jaden Springer will be right there at the forefront. We'll see him giving 13th overall pick Grady Dick of the Toronto Raptors the work in these opportunities. But you'll also see D'Anthony Melton is there, Paul Reed is there, Terquavion Smith and Ricky Council are there. But it is Jaden Springer that is the star of the show, so let's dive right into it here. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that this is going to directly translate to the NBA. This is obviously a different level of competition, a different setting, a different competitive setting that these guys are competing in. But this is an awesome sign nonetheless. That ability to take guys off the dribble is something that did not exist within Jaden Springer's bag when he first came into the NBA. And that confidence to take that, we don't know what Grady Dick is going to be as an NBA-level defender. Looking at his time at Kansas, I thought he was solid. I thought he was probably better than some would expect, but he is not a guy that I think will be pounding any all-defensive teams at any point. He's a guy that I think is a pretty solid team defender, has some good instincts for where to be, but as far as in a one-on-one isolation situation, I think he's going to be victimized and taken advantage of for moments at the NBA. I did not think Jaden Springer fit the list of guys that were capable of doing that, though, so I'm excited to see that for these moments. And I want to talk a lot about Jaden Springer because there has been so much talk about the lack of draft impact for the Sixers. We know this year that they did not have a single draft pick. They did add Terquavion Smith as well as Ricky Council IV and Azuolas Tubelis out of Arizona through the undrafted market. Each of them signed two-way contracts, but there was not a draft pick that was used. And I do think Terquavion Smith is the gem of that bunch. I've heard a ton of good things from him about him at the Rico Hines showcase. Coach David Thorpe was super thrilled with the things that he's been put forward. That's an awesome name to have on board for Terquavion Smith. I have a cool breakdown on him specifically on this channel that you guys can check out as well. But I do want to talk about Jaden Springer the most today. And I think he is essentially going to be the draft impact for the Sixers. Because as I mentioned, no draft pick made this year. We flash back to last year. The one draft pick that they did have was traded on draft night. That, of course, was attached to Danny Green and traded to the Grizzlies. That pick became David Roddy, but the Sixers did land D'Anthony Melton, which I think was a worthwhile deal. And D'Anthony Melton's made a very positive effect so far in his time in Philadelphia, so no regrets there. But Jaden Springer, just 20 years old, we truly do not know what he can do. And I did want to pull up, I'll start with his NBA stats here. Really not enough to read anything into, such a small sample size. I mean, playing 6 total minutes in his rookie season, a little bit more than that this past season, but still not nearly enough to read into the trends and what exactly he did. I did want to flash back to his college stats in his 1 year at Tennessee. This is a little bit better of an indicator. Played 25.9 minutes per game, averaged 12.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists. That 1.2 steals, I think, is very noteworthy. His defense is going to be his calling card. And the thing that made him jump up draft boards is that 43.5% three-point percentage. It is on a low percentage or low sample size, only 1.8 attempts per game, but nonetheless, 43.5% is an awesome sign. Now, the Sixers, when they drafted Jaden Springer, they absolutely knew that he was a project, that this was not a guy that was going to make a day one impact, but I do think that there's a real chance in the long run that he is a guy that outplays his draft value, and he's a guy that people start to think, where did this guy come from? Because that was the pathway of the expectation, that this was a long-term project, and I do believe in his tools in the long run. What he is as a player, I'll start with, is defensive-minded. He's going an NBA-level defender right now. There's a real argument to be made that Jaden Springer could be the best perimeter defender on this Sixers roster as is currently constructed. I think Patrick Beverley is an awesome guy to surround him with. They play a little bit similar. Patrick Beverley, more of like the pest type that just works really hard. Jaden Springer has some legitimate athletic gifts as a defender. The way he can slide side to side, the way he can get vertical at the rim as a weak side help rim protector. That's not things that are common within a guard body. He's only like 6'4", but he really can get up there and protect the rim in a way that is you cannot teach, and an athleticism that can just pop at times. So he will have some moments that make you say, wow. Now, what comes with that is he looks pretty lost offensively for many moments at a time. The jump shot, I'm still not completely bought in. There's been some progression in the statistics throughout his 2 years in the G League that we're seeing some signs of growth. Mechanically, I'm still not entirely bought in. That it feels like at times there's a little bit of a hitch in it. It's gotten better, absolutely, since he's been in the NBA. He's working at it. I do admire the work ethic. That seems to be what every teammate says, is that he does put the work in. He's doing those things. He's a good guy to be around. He's only 20 years old, but he's still very early in his progression. He was 18 years old when he was drafted, so that comes right along with this being a long-term project. But for him to show these flashes offensively, that's all we need to see. And Nick Nurse, this is the biggest thing. By the way, I do feel bad for Nick Nurse, that this was a guy when he took this job was ready to construct a championship contender, and he's had nothing but headaches so far in his time as the Sixers head coach, starting with being asked about James Harden at the opening press conference, and has only downhill spiraled from there. But Nick Nurse is the type of guy to juice things out of players. That has not been the case. That is what I expect to occur with Jaden Springer. Now, I want to look at the Sixers depth chart as a whole and take a look at where exactly I can see playtime for him. James Harden's obviously the biggest question mark with him, is if there is a James Harden trade, which who knows at this point. Feels like it flips on an everyday basis, but that obviously would free up a ton of guard minutes. Patrick Beverley, looking underneath that, is an intriguing name. As I mentioned, I think that's a good mentor for Springer. I think that's a guy that is going to be fun to be teaching him the tricks of the trade to help grow him and everything along. Tyrese Maxey and D'Anthony Melton are obviously going to log a ton of minutes as well. D'Anthony Melton on the third-string backup point guard, as well as the backup shooting guard there. And then Furkan Korkmaz also in the mix here. And now I did want to bring up Furkan for a reason. He's also doing his thing on the international level, and I did want to pull this up just to give Furkan a little shout here. But look at this. The Turkish sniper is back in action.
Korkmaz. His pass has to come out. Now he's going to get a clean look for three, and Korkmaz makes it. Momentum. Another one. Korkmaz again! So Korkmaz off the screen. Goes from deep, and he gets it. Wow,
Now, if James Harden has any advice for trade requests not going their way, he should absolutely be hitting Furkan Korkmaz's line, because this man has now requested 2 trades from the Sixers and has not been seen either fulfilled. And this came as recently as last year as him requesting a trade and for it never to come. I do like Furkan. I think Furkan has gotten a bad rap. You know, he has his holes as a player. He's not perfect by any means, but he's another guy that I could see getting an opportunity for Nick Nurse. That's what I'm really hoping for from Nick Nurse from the season. And let's just be a little more adventurous. Let's just try, guys. I know what I can get from 35 minutes of PJ Tucker. I see it on an every night basis and did all last year. How about we throw in Jaden Springer for a few, or Furkan Korkmaz for a few? Let's see what things look different. I hope to see that from Nick Nurse. But I do think Jaden Springer is a cleaner fit for what Nurse breeds as a head coach. The defensive-minded, defensive-oriented, guys with athleticism, guys that are switchable. Jaden Springer is all of these things, and I'm very excited to see him under this system. If he can continue to make this progress, I think in the long term that he could be the Tyrese Maxey backcourt partner that we're looking for. That we know Tyrese Maxey's deficiencies, that he's always going to be a little undersized. While he's come a long way as a defender, and I think he does not get enough credit for the growth that he's had in these areas, there's going to be certain matchups that just aren't built for him, that he's a little undersized, he doesn't have the muscle mass to match up with some of these bigger bodies. That is Jaden Springer. He's a guy who, even at 20 years old, you can see the square in his shoulders. He looks like a football player out there, that he's ready to post up, to body with whoever. And that's only going to continue to grow and get better as he ages and adds layers to his body as well as his game. So if he can just be a passable offensive player, which he's showing signs of life of, and once again, that's videos incredibly encouraging for these hopes, he is a rotation player that we can start giving him minutes. So I am very much hoping that this is the year where Jaden Springer starts to make an impact. He's a little bit of the Sixers' secret weapon of them not knowing where he comes from, that we're able to see what Jaden Springer can do. So this is a player to watch as the season gets closer. It will to be determined what type of opportunity that he does get. But this is a guy that I think many people have written off and forgotten about. And it's time to start remembering who this guy is. I'm excited to see what Jaden Springer can be. I believe in him as an NBA prospect, as an NBA talent. And I think this is the year where he starts to get an opportunity and starts to put it together. It's a great sign he's already training with Rico Hines. That's going to be a guy in Nick Nurse's ear throughout the season, a guy sitting on that Sixers bench giving advice. It's great to see him out there. He seems to be taking all these steps necessary to possibly put himself in the best position. And now it's time to see if it all works out. Appreciate all you guys for tuning into this video. Once again, make sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe to this channel, ring that bell, and don't miss anything. I'll be back with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.